let's look into these. So again, our agenda is going to be quite simple. We're going to review the winner of each challenge. We're going to look at a quick breakdown of the top meta breakdown of top 8. Lots of events this week. People are preparing for RCQs and events, so a lot of data to look at there. We'll look at the top notes, any new additions, text, or anything that's changed from last week. And finally, we'll look at a Niv review of what's transpiring with Niv Mizzet decks and how they're performing. So, moving into it, because we have so many events here. Genuinely. I believe there was a total of 7 events to look at this week. Yes, so our winners, we had Creativity spiking an event with 77 players. Amalia Combo took down an event with 80 players. Spirits, Resurgence, back into it, took down the biggest event of the week with 100 players. Izzet Phoenix took down an event for 80 players. Niv did take down an event this week, but it was only a 46 player event. Waste took down an event for 63 players. And finally, Insoul Artifact took down a 72 player event. So, first thing to notice there, format looks great. We have 7 different events, topped by 7 different winning decks. So let's look at the top 8 breakdown. So, as you can see here, we're going in order. Dominable Creativity spiked the first event of the week. Funnily enough, that was the only Creativity deck in all the top 8s. So it was looking to bring in the Tide Tyrant instead of an all-in combo win with World Spireworm. But yeah, aside from that though, the top 8s, as you can see here, are pretty diverse. The biggest clunk where top 8s would do was on the final 72-player event where Triple Phoenixes got into the top 8. But aside from that, the biggest thing we had was just double decks making it. A lot of events, there was double Niv to Lights, there was double Waste Knots. As you can see here, there's a huge proportion of diversity. If you look at each of these lists, for example, the first one, you will find usually a unique deck or a deck that's not very representative. So for the first one, we had the Creativity. Second one, we had Boros Heroic coming in second, didn't show up anywhere else. Third one, we had Spirit spiking, and we had a Quintorius combo, which was the only one in the event. On the 9th, we had a Mono White Humans list making the top 8, nowhere else shown. Small event was took down by Niv, which is the only one where we saw a bit less. We saw Boros Burn make a resurgence, but basically an aggro deck. And then finally, again, we had, in Soul, there was diversity in every top 8, so it was a very good show. Now let's get the full breakdown. So, interestingly, Niv Mizzet had the highest percentage of top 8s with an 18%. Izzet Phoenix came in next with 16%. Waste Not was below that with 14%. People seem to love the Waste Not discard deck. It did get a lot of support from Outlaws at Thunder Junction. It got the new Vault card that I can't remember the name of, the mono black one, which kind of cares when things get discarded. Rakdos Vampires came in at 11% of the top 8 metas. Sadly, it looks like Rakdos midrange has gone and people are going hard into the Sorin line because people love the line of like closing out the game. We are seeing adjustments for that, we'll talk about in the breakdown. Amelia Combo came in lower than all of them, it's only 7% conversion. Insoul Artifact also came in at 7. Blue White Control had a few top 8s going up at 5. Spirits had 4% of the meta, but it did close out one of the events. Then we had individual one-off decks that made the top 8, so we had an Abzan Greasefang, Boros Burn, the Creativity deck that spiked the whole event, Boros Heroic, Boros Convoke, Mono White Humans, and a Quintorius combo deck. So this meta looks amazing. As I said before, Niv took down one event and was the highest played deck, which is great for us, but we'll talk about this now as we move into our breakdowns. So, first note, very diverse meta. There was different winners for each event. The biggest clump, as we said before, was 3 decks of the same. Everything else showed great diversity. There was tons of different plays in the top 8, so it looks like we have a great adjustment of decks that can win and do great. It appears the meta has adjusted to the new prowess meta. A lot more decks are running interaction. One thing I've noticed is, looking through sideboards, Pick Your Poison has become way more played. For those who don't know, Pick Your Poison is 1 green, and it says target player sacrifices an enchantment or an artifact or a creature with flying. You have to choose for them. So obviously this has been brought in to answer Fables, it answers Slickshot Show-Off, it answers the Vein Rippers, which are the big problem at the moment. So yeah, that seems to be an adjustment to deal with the explosiveness of Slickshot Show-Off. They're bringing in better and adjustments of that. Niv numbers fake. Well, I wanted to talk about that. Niv's high performance here, its win and its high meta percentage share was really bolstered by the fact that they 2 Nivs basically top 8'd the smallest event of the week. I feel with only a small group of players like that, it was kind of a spike. Like I've said before, the brilliance of the Niv deck is it's basically a toolbox deck, and we just tweak it depending on what the meta requires. And yeah, that means that obviously it's constantly adjusting, but I feel that without that small event that Niv was able to spike, we would have been way lower. Not way lower, but we would have been at the lower top, tier 2, I say, of the top 8 metas. And finally, the biggest thing we're going to talk about here, we have a ban and restricted coming today when this video goes live. And I honestly think that there will not be any changes. We've seen that from these breakdowns and other things that people have adapted for the Amelia combo. I know Wizards want that combo to exist. They've said so as much. They want a permanent based creature combo to be in the format. They're not hugely happy about the interesting interaction of Tide Game that can happen if someone, for example, gives the Wildgrowth Walker indestructible. We saw that happen multiple times at the Pro Tour, which I think is a niche thing. I've noticed that a lot of decks after that happened were doing that as a meme because so the interesting thing is it would cause the combo to go off, but it would also hurt your opponent on Moto because technically the state is changing because you can constantly explore and scry one and look at the top of your deck. So what that was doing was forcing your opponent to constantly do stuff, which would, if they didn't immediately, they had to basically concede because otherwise they would eat their clock and lose the match anyway. It appears that people have given up on that meme and gone for more traditional things like Night of Dusk Shadow, Quakebringer Giant, stuff to stop them gaining life, and people are being more reserved with what they're holding now. They're using holding removal to deal with the Amalia once it's gone off, and people are running more Graveyard Hate to answer the return to the ranks. Now, honestly, if I was to say something, I think we could maybe see return to the ranks eat a ban, because it does give that deck greater standing power. I don't think it needs banning, but if they want to maybe cut back on Amalia's strength, that would be what they'd hit, but I don't think they will. The meta's, I think, is perfect and good right now. Honestly, if I had to say anything, we might see a sweeping ban, like to do a fighting game analogy, we might see like a seasonal change where everything gets a little adjustment to try and change the whole meta. If we see that, I think we could see minor pieces took from everything, like Pickpocket Prankster, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and Return to the Ranks. But yeah, I don't think we'll see bans. This will be aged terribly if suddenly I next day wake up and there's 16 bans in the format, but you know, there's a reason I don't bet money. Finally, let's look at our little Niv review. Niv is back from Omnath for Light. That was my note from last week. That's for now. Decks I have noticed are moving away from the Niv list. With the drop of Atlas of Thunder Junction and Lyphia and Ancient Cornucopia, people went hard into two colors again. They dropped so many of the monocolored stuff they were running. That stuff has made a huge resurgence. Sunfall's back, Deadly Cover-Up's back. More and more single color spells are showing up as they're just shaving them off. Yorion's King stands true. It's still only 80 card Niv lists which are making top 8s. I'm not sure if anyone's even trying 60 card lists anymore. Ancient Cornucopia is staying strong. Ancient Cornucopia was a 2 of in every list that top 8'd this week and last week. And for the consensus I've seen, people are a huge fan of it and they're sticking with it. Lafia Undefeated Slickshot is sadly being cut. Wandering Minds are returning to the decks, and people are giving up on the value engine of that, which is a real shame, but that seems to be the way the meta's moving. So, that concludes the review. We'll be back next week.